Salutations everyone, and this is Razor giving you guys a video on the Nintendo Switch and Super Smash Bros. Melee and what they can do for each other. Now obviously the big pipe dream that we've all had for quite some time now is Melee HD. Super Smash Bros. Melee remastered on the current generation consoles. It's what we've wanted, and there are so many benefits that could come from that. Organizers would be able to run a tournament with one console. You wouldn't have to have a GameCube and a Wii U and or a Switch. You can just do it on one console on the Nintendo Switch, since we know that Smash Bros. Wii U is getting a port to that as well. You wouldn't have to carry around these giant TVs that nobody even makes anymore, and you could just run it, in widescreen, 1080p, 60 frames. It would be great. Well, there's a reason why you wouldn't run Melee on a Wii when Brawl was the thing, why we still had GameCubes back then, and why we still have them now. There's a lot of things that are kind of, in the way of Melee HD being a reality. Obviously, there's a lot of people that want it, and especially when it comes to the pros, they've been very vocal about that as well. There's a ton of people that we know out there in the community that would pay hand over fist for a brand new console, $300, $400, $500, even on and upwards, to play Melee HD. And just that, because it's such a big part of so many people's lives, so many people's careers, and still has a huge impact. Even though it's such an old game, it's very unique in the way that it's been able to carry its fan base through and through all the new iterations of other Smash games, while other fighting games have always been keeping up with the newest and shiniest edition. Melee is still treated as the mainstay of Smash Bros. Competitive. There are more Wii U streams. Brawl was bigger for a time than Melee when Brawl first came out, but Melee is still considered the crown jewel. They tend to get the most views in a tournament that has both games, and is typically the last one featured as the grand event. It has the storylines of all the players that we've been watching for so many years, and we know all this tech and all of the meta that really hasn't changed in a while, with some minute things here or there. It's a huge thing and is very unique in that manner. But to get Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube, we're probably not going to get an HD version. Nintendo really isn't looking to dump assets in that direction. They might make a decent amount of money off of it, but as far as where they want to allocate resources and time, even though some people who don't know anything about video game development might say, oh, ports are easy, HD remixes are easy, and all this stuff, they don't know anything that they're talking about. This takes time, effort, and money, and Nintendo probably is looking to put all of those things in different aspects other than an old game. Whether that's a good idea for them or not is not something that we can do up for debate. Let's just look at what's realistic. So, on the other side of things, let's talk about the Nintendo GameCube going to the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console. This dream is a very real and obtainable one. We've heard a lot that the Nintendo GameCube is coming to the Nintendo Switch's Virtual Console, which has been absent largely in the Wii U and the Wii, even though we've had backwards compatibility and lots of other things that we've been able to play over and over again. There are still some things before this can become a reality to fix all of the things I previously mentioned. In order for Melee to work through a virtual console or an emulation via the Nintendo Switch, there's a lot of things, a lot of criteria, a lot of checkboxes that it has to go through. It has to be absolutely a one-to-one translation. It has to be perfect. It has to be seamless. The most important thing that makes Melee unique is how fast and fluid everything works in that game and how it feels. People have been using the same controller for Melee, for Brawl, for Wii U, and we've been looking for the same things in our controllers, and we've been looking for the same things for connection. And since Melee is so fast and has so many frame perfect things, the game has to be frame perfect. A massive part of that success will be for the emulation. It has to run at a solid 60 frames per second. No ifs, ands, or buts, no hitches, no slight changes in quality. It has to be a perfect, rock solid 60 FPS. That's the only way for this to work. We have come a long way through emulation. Things have gotten a lot better than they have in the past, but this is something that absolutely needs to be a thing in order for tournament organizers and, most importantly, the pro players to make that switch. Now, the game also has to have zero lag, and this is why you do not play Melee on the Nintendo Wii, because there was some lag, even though you can just throw the GameCube disc into that Wii. It was very minimal, minute, maybe unnoticeable to some people, but if you go to a pro, they could show you exactly what the difference is in lag. Lag can come from two places here. It's either the controller input or the monitor, which is why we still have the big, bulky televisions in every single Melee tournament out there, because that's the only way we can get zero lag. If you try to throw it through an HDMI converter or put it on a different, more modern television, you're going to get lag and you're not going to get players happy and you're going to get really weird results. Playing online is bad enough, you know, if you've played on NetPlay on Brawl, or if you play Wi-Fi on Wii U, you know lag is involved there. But in tournament, it has to be perfect from your controller to the game and from the console to the television. So there absolutely can be no settling in this criteria either. It's got to rock at 60 FPS, be frame perfect, and have zero lag from the controller to the console. Now, we do see there is a USB on the Nintendo Switch, and we've had the adapters for GameCube controllers for the Wii U, so we've been able to work around that for right now on Smash 4, but for it to work for Melee, it still has to work in this same capacity and give us zero lag. And the last thing that it needs is to be NTSC. Now, a lot of people have their problems with Melee, and it's like, oh, what would if they re-released it and they changed some things and they balanced it? There's a patched version of Melee, and it's called PAL. But NTSC is what everybody in North America, which is the vast majority of the Melee scene where it comes from, that's what they've been playing. That's what all the big tournaments are run at in America. EVO, you know, everything is run on NTSC. So that has to be the version that is playable. It would be great if there was like a switch. You just hit like a switch and it becomes NTSC or PAL, so you can still do PAL tournaments in Europe. That's whatever. But all of the majors that are run in America, maybe you like DreamHack, maybe you think PAL is a superior version for this, that, and the other because it's more balanced. The way that it is, NTSC is the popular one. It's the one people play. It's the one all of the major pros and all the Americans have played for all these years. So that's the version that it needs to be, which is, I think, probably the easiest thing to ask for if we were to get a virtual console version of Melee. It would be nice to have both, but first and foremost, it needs to be NTSC. I myself am not a huge die-hard fan of it, but that's the version that we've been playing for all these years. And for a virtual console port of Melee to work, it has to be exactly the same the way that it is right now. 60 FPS, no questions, no lag from the controller to the console or from the console to the monitor, and it's got to be NTSC. So those are just some of the things that we got to keep in mind. We all have high hopes. We all, in a cloud dream, have Melee HD as a reality, but that is just so far from an attainable goal that I think we need to let that one set sail. But Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube coming to a Nintendo Switch Virtual Console is absolutely possible and can be done, but this is what it needs to be. Otherwise, we're still going to be lugging around GameCubes and giant monitors for these tournaments, which we've gotten used to, but this would be better in so many ways. And also, it gives everybody the chance to play Melee without having to have an older console or an older television. It makes it an easy entry level into Melee, and it helps the scene grow. And that's, of course, what Melee and 64 and Brawl and Wii U have been built on, and that's community support. It's why Melee is still out there, because people have been supporting it. And this would give us an easy entryway for more people to get into the scene and make it grow. Give it more support, give it more limelight, and have that at EVO on ESPN this next year.